Alright guys, so a little bit different video format today. I was working at the shop, so I did not have very good audio from there. There's a lot of background noise, so I'm not able to commentate live, so I'm just gonna have to do a voiceover on this. Anyways, in today's video, what we're doing here is I'm replacing a clutch master cylinder, and while I'm in there, I'm also refurbishing my brake booster. I noticed that my brake booster was getting really crusty, and this is actually from the Zenki years. I believe they come in that zinc coated format or whatever. I cleaned it up, put a fresh layer of paint on there. I used a primer, and then I hit it with a high temp. Since the brake booster does sit pretty close to the exhaust manifold, I wanted to make sure that I used the correct paint. And then anyways, yeah, here we go. Looks pretty good. I definitely could have spent more time on it, but I just kind of got impatient. And here we go, putting in the clutch master cylinder. I picked this up from Battle Garage RS. They have them in stock. And if you don't know, in order to do this job, one of the studs is actually facing inside of the car, and the other one is facing inside the engine bay. So you're gonna have to remove the brake booster to be able to do this job anyways. It's fairly easy to get to though. Once you take out all that interior trim, you're able to get to the bolts pretty easily. I use I believe it's a 12 millimeter. I use a long extension and a universal socket at the end. So here we go, putting everything back in. It's pretty simple. You shouldn't take longer than an hour to do this. But yeah, everything's going in. And here we go, putting the booster in. And booster's going in. For the booster, all the bolts mount are oriented into the firewall. So you're gonna have to tighten the bolts up inside the car. So here we go, I'm doing that. Get him in there, and they're the same size as the clutch master, so they're 12 millimeter, I believe. And I was actually lucky that I did this because there was only 3 bolts holding mine in, and there's supposed to be 4, so I was actually missing one. So I'm kind of glad I did this, otherwise I would never have known. So here we go, putting the pin that holds it to the brake pedal in. And I believe there's a spring, a helper return spring that you put on there to help with the pedal return. So go ahead and stick that on there. Test it out, looks good. And then I think this is me putting the column back. And it's a lot easier to do this job when you drop the column completely. That way you're able to get to the bolt without having to really like twist around up there. You might have to disconnect your ignition switch, otherwise you may be putting too much strain on that wiring. You don't want to damage your wiring at all. So here we go, putting the trim back. I believe that bottom trim is just a bunch of Phillips head screws and 2 10 millimeter bolts on the left hand side. So that just goes back on. And here's a picture of my old brake master cylinder compared to the new one. And then here we go, putting the new brake master cylinder in. So what I like to do is I like to actually start the threads on the brake lines itself before mounting it completely onto the brake booster. I find it a lot easier that way, just because you have more room to like kind of bend the line if you need to. Once the brake master cylinder is started and then firmly mounted on the brake booster, then that's when I tighten down the brake lines. I don't know if I actually recorded that portion, but yeah, so here we go, putting on the brake master cylinder. And again, it's just the same 12 millimeter nuts that are on there. So So you go ahead and snug those on there. And like I said, they're just two 12mm nuts that you have to tighten, one on either side. Get this one on there. And on the other side, there's actually, you should have a little metal bracket that holds the wiring for your brake level sensor. So that's going to be on that side. Just be aware of the positioning of that bracket. And yeah, here we go. So looks real good. I really like the way it makes the engine bay pop. That old crusty brake booster and master cylinder was not looking good whenever I opened my engine bay. So I'm really glad I did this. And yeah, here we go. Looks good. And hope to see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.